Hello, Chair Winsfield and members of the Joint Judiciary Committee. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Emily Hoegler. I serve as Policy Counsel for Americans United for Life, a national nonprofit organization specializing in early life issues and bioethics law. I'm here today to urge your support for House Bill 5309, which strengthens the essential role of parents in helping their minor daughters make permanent, life-altering decisions about pregnancy and parenting. I urge your support for HB 5309, and I submitted an in-depth testimony with citations for three main reasons. First, it's constitutionally permissible. Second, it protects the well-being of minor girls. And third, it safeguards them from coercion and abuse. And I would encourage you all to read my testimony. But instead of summarizing my testimony with the time that I have right now, I just kind of wanted to address some of the concerns that I've heard the committee members ask other proponents of this bill. I think the main one that I've heard a lot of is committee members being concerned about the minors who don't feel comfortable telling their parents about abortion. Kind of the argument is, well, if they want their parents to know, they'll tell them. If not, legislation should not require them to. And I just want to address this. I think the underlying assumption in these arguments is that minor children are more competent than their adult parents to sort of weigh the costs and benefits and to make these very important, life-altering, and permanent medical decisions when it comes to abortion and reproductive health care. And the data is just not consistent with this assumption. So what we see is that pregnant adolescent patients do not make the most competent decisions compared to adult counterparts. They're more likely to delay care. Girls are more likely than adults to postpone abortion care until after 15 weeks gestation. Research indicates that this is because of a lack of knowledge about the importance of prenatal care and a lack of understanding about the consequences of its absence. And this lack of or delayed care is associated with adverse maternal outcomes. Girls are also more likely than adults to resort to unskilled practitioners and dangerous self-induction methods of abortion. In contrast, when parents are involved, they're able to help their minors select competent healthcare providers who prioritize their health. They're able to help provide medical histories, which is important. They're able to help the minor understand the medical risks of abortion, and they're able to monitor for post-abortion complications. And this is especially vital because adolescent girls face heightened risks when they conceal abortion from their parents. There are a number of heartbreaking anecdotes that I could read, just a few. Dawn Ravenel from New York died at 13 while she was left unattended in recovery after receiving an abortion. Her parents were not notified about her abortion, and they were not able to advocate for her or to be with her while she was in recovery, and they could have prevented this tragedy. Sandra Kaiser in St. Louis died at 14 from suicide 3 weeks after a secret abortion. Her mother was unaware of the procedure and was unable to alert the providers of her pre-existing psychological history, which significantly increased her risk for post-abortion distress. So this bill is important for the vast majority of cases when parents are competent to help their children make informed decisions about their health care, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Senator Kissel.
Thank you very much, Chairman Winfield, and I know that it's already after 5. Ms. Hoegler, thank you for your testimony, and I know you're here on behalf of an organization that's pro-life, but what you stated may seem to some folks counterintuitive, and I think it's an important point. A lot of folks approach this issue from a moral standpoint, but the part that I just wanted to highlight is what you're saying is that medically, for the health of the young lady, that if you get an adult involved, namely a parent, that these decisions are optimized, whether it's to have an abortion or not have an abortion. But let's say it's to have an abortion, that medical decision is best made sooner rather than later because of the physical consequences of postponing that issue being addressed. Is that correct?
I would agree that when there is an important medical decision to be made by a minor, it's important that the parent is involved in that decision. And I think in my testimony, I cited extensive examples of the physical health and mental health risks of abortion, and I think it's important for parents to be involved to help inform their child of those risks and help their child make the healthiest decision for that child.
I understand, but I don't want you to be advocating for your position that's pro-life. I get that, and there's groups on one side, groups on the other. But the part that I want to focus in on very specifically is the sooner this decision is addressed, the most informed decision, which is helped by a parent because they will be an adult, but when you're dealing with an abortion, the quicker that decision is made medically, the better the health outcomes for the young lady. Is that true or false?
Not necessarily. If you're talking about for the abortion specifically, perhaps, but it's not necessarily a matter of expeditiousness. It's a matter of making the best decision for the minor child, which typically is not abortion.
Thank you. I misunderstood your testimony, and I'm glad you clarified it. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative O'Dea.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly, thank you for your testimony. I'm going through it, but you at the end, in conclusion, you say parental involvement laws save lives. You just gave a couple examples. Can you just expound on that a little bit, what you mean by that, or how you can say that?
Yes, parental notification laws save lives because parents are in the best position to advocate for their child's physical and mental health. And I outlined extensively in my testimony examples of this. So, for example, you see with abortion an increase in the risk of mental health issues. There's varied data, anywhere between 65 to 81% increase in the risk of psychiatric disorders, of suicide ideation, of substance abuse, and things like this. And these are complications that oftentimes minors aren't equipped to understand and to actually weigh these long-term risks. And in addition, of the stories that I cited, I have several more. There's a woman named Holly Patterson, 18, who died from septic shock caused by a chemical abortion that her father only learned about after the abortion. In Maryland, there was a woman named Erica Richardson, or a girl. She was 18. She died after bleeding to death from a punctured uterus. The abortion was performed without her parents' knowledge. And there's case after case of these stories where minors died of very avoidable deaths. Their parents were not involved in these decisions to warn them about these physical health risks, in addition to the mental health risks I discussed before when I talked about the example of Sandra Kaiser, the young girl who unfortunately died of suicide. So parents are able to stand in the gap here and help minors receive the resources and the support they need to make these decisions. And that's how these laws are able to save lives.
And when the parents aren't the right people to step in the gap for whatever reason, whether there's an involvement with a relative or the parent, a stepfather or something, can you give us some examples? Because we heard that some of the judicial procedures or processes that are in place in other states don't work. Are there states that do work? The judicial process works?
Yes. So it's hard to get statistics on. I think Representative Fazzino asked a question before about a similar thing about the statistics of, for example, minors who are appointed free counsel for a judicial bypass process and things like that. And it's hard to get statistics to get to the heart of your question on exactly the rate at which these things occur. But the closest that I was able to find is if you look at Massachusetts, there was a study done on just that kind of looked at minors who received or who sought judicial bypass. It followed 467 minors as they were going through the process of receiving judicial bypass. And it wasn't, the purpose of the study was not to talk about what percentage of them were assisted and were successfully able to file that petition, but 100% of those 467 minors received free pro bono legal services from nonprofit organizations to help them file that petition. So it is important in the cases when a minor is not safe to, or when a parent is not safe to be informed of an abortion, for a minor to have an avenue to seek judicial bypass. And it's important for those minors to receive assistance in that, and we see that the vast majority, if not all minors, do receive that assistance. And additionally, just a quick Google search of, if you Google something like, I'm a minor and I'm looking for a judicial bypass and I need assistance, Google will come up with Jane's Due Process. It's a nonprofit organization that assists minors in receiving judicial bypasses. Repro Legal Health Line is another one. ACLU has a judicial bypass coordination process. And so you see minors receiving assistance with this. And I do also want to just put this in context also. There have been previous people have cited, like Representative Lanu talked about 10% of cases when minors receive abortion, they seek a judicial bypass. Of those 10%, only 13% of those 10% cite the fact that the parent is not safe to tell as the reason that they're seeking that. So I just want to put this in context. Like, it is very important to protect minors who are in these situations where they don't have a parent that it's safe to be notified about abortion. But to put this in context, it's 1.3% of minors seeking abortion, according to the data that we have available. And this bill is the standard that this bill will establish is notifying the vast majority, 99% of parents who are competent, who are able to protect and support their child, while providing an alternative avenue to those children who do not have a parent that it's safe to inform.
Okay. Thank you very much for your testimony, taking the time to get up here to give it to us. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative O'Day. Further questions, comments from committee members? Seeing none, Ms. Hoegler, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.